Hey guys, it's me, Gabriel, coming to you with that evening spark. So, finding your value, find out what gives you value. Gosh, I need to figure out a title. We'll figure one out by the time we post this. But basically, in life, you had like a way to connect with people is by figuring out what is of value to them and speaking to them in those terms. And what people value in life basically boils down to two things: what they spend their time and their money on, basically. So if they spend a lot of time on what have you, or whatever it may be, then that's where they place their value. Or if they spend a lot of money on certain things, it attests to where they place their value. So for me, for instance, I've decided, I felt that the Wolfpack and my spiritual progression, being able to help others and get this message out, these messages out to others, was of great value in investing in that. So that's why I've invested in spending money to advertise and things like that. Continually writing, uh, you know, the spiritual texts that I intend to write out, like the Rhythm of God. That's going to be the one coming out, and these crazy sticky notes, these spiritual commands. And why I have these all over the room. Not to say, oh, by doing this it means I'm dedicated, but rather by my it's an expression and an extension of of what I value. Kind of a continual reminder, as it were. And so, yeah, and I can. And here's the thing: the greater, when you don't have something like, when, for instance, if your values and your actions don't align, there's going to be the greater the negative energy is going to be. So, for instance, and you're going to feel the worst, the worst you'll feel. So, for instance, let's say you have the value of, you have these, you got to figure out what your values are first, and then from there, if you say, for instance, I really value family, but you're working all the time, this is kind of a common one. You're gonna probably feel there's gonna be a lot of chaos. To bring peace, to be at one with yourself, your values must align with your actions. So, if you're a workaholic, own that. Like, I love working kind of thing. Like, make that your thing. Like, embrace that and establish that that's one of your values. But don't try and say, oh, I have this love of this or that. But, you've got to be honest with yourself, I think. Honest and clear with yourself and say, yes, this is who I am. And you shouldn't feel necessarily ashamed of it. But there are certain things that will come of your actions based off of your values. And so I think it's recognizing that, taking the time to write down what are your values? What are the things for which you want to aspire towards? They're kind of a little bit more broad, like for me, having spiritual maturity, growing with God, these kind of things. And then having your life reflect that and be built upon that as your foundation. As an airman, our three core values are integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. And those are very good values to have. But at the same time, that's like organizational values, the values of the organization. And it's good when you can align your values with that. But at the same time, I think it's still prudent to take stock of where your values are at within yourself and say, okay, how do they align? And looking at your life in an honest and introspective way and seeing whether or not my values are aligning with, or my actions are aligning with what I say my values are. And yeah, because that's the thing. If you notice you're falling short or you're not getting the results you want, you very well may be trying to live a life that is not in tune and is not aligned with your values. So, yeah, and that's something everyone's got to figure out for themselves. But I'd say that, yeah, that's something I've recognized. And see, when you can, and this helps with conversation too, and our manner to relate to one another, because the measure for which we can understand what someone's values are, where they spend their time and their money, can really say a lot about themselves. Um, you know, really down to the car. You shouldn't necessarily judge someone entirely by the car that they drive, but it does say something about them. Let's say perhaps they have the newest car model out there. They might speak to how they have they feel they need to have this status symbol perhaps, or they have to feel they have to have the newest and best things, or maybe they've got this broken down car, but they're doing still pretty well for themselves. Maybe they just don't think they want to be more conservative. They may be more prudent. Or maybe they don't have a car at all. Everything says something. And you can chime in on that. You don't have to make fun of anybody necessarily about that stuff. But it's something that you should take stock of, take note of as you pursue relationships romantically or platonically, just face-to-face kind of thing. And yeah, some things are easier to discern than others, but it gives you some talking points too, if nothing else. And yeah, there's a lot of ways. These are ways that you can pick up on things, because you've got to listen. You've got to observe, and you've got to be those things, observing and listening, because observing is what you see, and listening is by what you hear. So both of those, you can gain if you do it accordingly and you do it reflectively, you can, and actively observing, actively listening, you can I think you can gain a great deal of knowledge and understanding about another person. That's the thing. It's not for manipulative purposes that you should pursue these types of things, but rather to be able to better understand and have a greater sense of clarity and respect and acceptance for a person. So yeah, there it is. So go forward, and I encourage you to find what is of value to you, your values, and really trying to find ways to have them resonate at your work, because that's a big thing. Your time that you spend at work, I think, really says a lot to your values. And I think perhaps if you feel disillusioned or unfulfilled at work, perhaps you're going forward in work in a way that doesn't align with what your values are. Now, you don't necessarily need to quit your job entirely. It may just need to be, before you change your circumstance entirely, change yourself. And it's amazing how your world will change accordingly. Because much of it is based off of our circumstances in work, and how we feel towards work is largely related to our relationships that we have with the people in the job and the customers, or whoever you deal with on the external aspect. And that dual nature and really can make the basis of whether or not you feel fulfilled or not fulfilled, because that's a real big thing. That's really important. But you go forward with this, and you try to see how you can add value to others. That's another great step. Once you figure out their value, figure out ways you can add value through generosity and excellence. So I have a friend, for instance, at work. She likes mug root beers. They don't sell mug root beer at the commissary, but they do have them at the DFAC. So instead of just continually buying sodas that she doesn't like because I'm the snack bar monitor, as it were, I'm the guy who's in charge of the snack bar, I get those root beers, the mug root beers from the DFAC, and I bring them to the break room for her to be able to have. And so that right there, adding value. It might not seem big, but it's showing, hey, I'm remembering, I'm paying attention to what you're saying, and I am being active in that endeavor. And it's small things like that, And so, yeah, those are those little things. It's the little things, the part of the it's the process, the little things that add up to the finished goal or end product of having a happier life, a more fulfilled life of joy and peace. So we'll end it there. I hope you guys have had a blessed night and to continue to have a great night. Seek out and find your values. Take some time to figure them out and really try to live a life that's in accordance with it. So for you, this question I have for you is, tell me, what are some of your values and how have you exemplified them in your life? Whatever they might be, let me know down below. And don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like this video and share it if you will. And you can follow me on the Facebook page, Benevolent Wolfpack, where I post these videos and other spiritually inspiring messages of hope and love. So, from here at the Wolfpack, we surely wish you well, and Godspeed, friends. Peace.